Good evening, everyone. Thanks for being here. My name's Bill Keveney, and I write about television for USA Today, and I've had the fortune to write about this cool new show, well, second season just finishing, called Mom. And tonight we're going to talk to one of the stars, Mimi Kennedy, who plays Marjorie, and she's had so many roles, but she's wonderful in this show. And why don't you welcome her, and we'll talk a little while.
Thank you. Wow. Just realized the last time I was in this room, Floyd Red Crow Westerman was being memorialized. Great mentor of mine.
Oh.
Native American guy. Fabulous guy.
Good memories. That's a good start.
Hi, Floyd. Yeah. Wow.
Well, first of all, after the episode that was just screened, congratulations on Marjorie's remission.
Yeah, yes, I will live.
Was that cancer has been such a part of that character's life? It will continue, I assume, or?
Well, yeah, nobody ever, you don't forget that the sort of Damocles, but you learn to love life even more. The friends of mine who are survivors, I would check in with them and say, so what am I eating? And the main thing was what Chuck wrote, don't you dare treat me differently. On the other hand, please drive me today. Please tell me you don't have anything to do today because I really need a ride there. Yeah.
Mom has been a big success so far. What do you attribute it to?
I think that Chuck Lorre and his community really know how to do television. It's what we call a well-oiled machine, and you need that when you're doing a show a week, from a script to sometimes a very changed script, and everybody's on the same page. So that's a fantastic feeling, and it's good community, and he runs that. He knows how to do that. That's number one. And number two, again, this is kind of from the top down, but it inspires people from the ground up. And that is, I think he took on stuff in his life with this show about women, about addiction, about recovery, and about repair and making amends that I have not seen on television as the core principle of the show and the comedy. And I think people recognize it as being, oh my God, we all know it's either our work in that direction or somebody in the family who is completely recovered because they did this work. So,
do such serious topics, does that make it tougher to do a comedy show, or does it provide opportunity, or is it both?
It's interesting you should ask. We were talking backstage about styles of acting changing over the length of my career, which is, 150 years going on. I started in restoration comedy, but yeah, it is hard. And I had to wean myself off audience laughter, quite frankly, in order to do some of the things that I was being asked to do. I had always understood that TV comedy being this weird hybrid of pleasing the audience and the camera at the same time, coming in with a lot of Norman Lear's shows. And before that, it wasn't so. I loved the Jack Benny show, for instance, and I think that was all canned laughter. I don't know if Lucy had a live audience, but they were definitely playing down the pipe. They were playing down to the audience at home because TV was new. It was so exciting to get the TV audience involved, and you could roll your eyes forever, and nobody in a real studio audience had to be enjoying it, so it wasn't a split focus. And now, so I was used to that. We would play with the studio audience as fellow players. Now Chuck is really asking, and the writer's room is really asking, to skip what they used to call run some red lights. As a young actress, I really liked natural comedy. And somebody, I'll never forget, a director and writer coming into my dressing room going, Mimi, you're running some red lights. Meaning, we wrote some jokes, and you're blowing past them for whatever reason. Generally it was to create a dynamic with me and my fellow actor. And now I'm being asked to run some red lights because it's not just about ha 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 ha, da 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 da, ha 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 more, not. So I've had to really learned to change. And one time we got a new scene right in front of the audience. I thought, oh, this is funny. I love it. Okay, Allison, it's Allison and me, so we're going to go for it. And Chuck kind of stopped it, and he said, don't keep getting the laughs in there. You're just coming over. You're just presenting this problem. You're just going to get it solved. And I was like, wow, okay. And I did it the way he asked. And now I begin to watch the shows, and I go, well, of course. It's dense. It's making it more dense. It's making the texture of the show more dense so that you can believe it. And then when the laughs are there, they're much better, and they're the kind that even if you don't belly laugh out loud, which often you do, you want to watch the show again next week because you haven't been, oh, that was exhausting, you know.
You mentioned the audience. You do Mom before a studio audience. Much acting is done just with the cameras and the crew. How different an experience is it to have, real people, watching?
Well, as I say, they're like a fellow player, an audio fellow player on show night. We've been rehearsing all along. We know what's funny. And I used to say on Dharma and Greg, there was another actor who was never sure whether he was really funny or he had a laugh line, and I just would know how funny they were, and I go, I'm not answering you right away because there's going to be a huge laugh there. And he's like, really? And I'm like, yes, you've been given a very funny line, and we'll wait and do something while that happens. And so I always would think of the audience when the writing was kind of like that. That's what I had to wean myself off of, because I could still do that and the audience would still respond. It's Pavlovian. They get the cue from me, they laugh, and it's a dance. And now I'm not doing that anymore. I like to think I got my job on Mom by when they wrote this character and I appeared, and I knew how funny the writing was. So I didn't have to do much, just say my line and people would laugh, and I think it was like, oh, she can make this stuff funny, she knows. But I'm weaning myself off that to right now. It could all change, and the minute we go back to work, but that's how it feels now.
What attracts you to a role? Is it what's written? Is it that in this case, the writer, producer, Chuck Lorre, having worked with them? Is it the other actors? What is it? What draws you to this role and to, I guess, any role?
Yeah. I got a big Catholic education when I was a kid, and I like to think that being an actress helps you help tell good stories. And I'm attracted to roles that afford a certain amount of honesty, human dignity, and then if they're going to get laughs, they get it from a real place. Otherwise, I have trouble doing it.
You started as a recurring character. Now you're a series regular.
Yeah.
Something with that group of women seems to have evolved. Did you feel it, and what do you think?
You know who felt it? Anna kept saying it. Anna Faris, who I think is a brilliant young actress and comedian, and I can't wait till she gets showered right alongside the wonderful Allison Janney. They knew it. They kept saying, oh my God, it's so wonderful to be doing a scene with all women. And, I was the new person going, really? You like doing it? I'm glad. Yeah, it feels great to me. But they knew the difference because they had been experimenting with a lot of different parts of Mom and what was going to be important. And we're not the only thing that happens on Mom, but we do seem to have become a core of point of view.
Oh, definitely. I mean, Jamie Presley is now joined, and I believe she's going to be a series regular.
She's going to be a series regular.
You got
Octavia
Award
whenever with her Academy
Spence.
Award. Yes, yes.
Beth Hall.
Yes.
You have just a great unit, and it seems like you can get to the serious stuff, and it was a great group hug there when.
Yeah. When I was in remission.
Yeah.
And it was so real. I mean, I think all of us know cancer survivors. I mean, there's a lot that I don't know if it's my age, but or styles of acting, but there's a lot of emotional accessibility now on the part of everyone taking part in Mom. as actors or actresses that I don't remember being true, say, in Dharma and Greg. People were more held back. They knew how to be funny. They loved acting. We kind of had a good celebratory time. But the kind of deeper stuff where we go, oh, I'm bringing something to this scene, and we all are. And that's a fantastic feeling. I think that's what's coming across.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
You've had such great roles. You're known for comedy, but you've done a number of dramas. You've worked with Woody Allen. You've worked with...
He's a very tragic director, of course.
Steven Soderbergh. Well, I mean comedy.
Soderbergh, yeah. Yeah.
Aaron Brockovich.
He was an amazing...
do you have a preference in comedy, drama, or as an actor you tackle everything?
I don't. It's whatever you're asked to do and however deep you're being asked to go into the material and why. You know, if you're in a comedy or if you're something else. And you can tell, of course, from the top down, the director, the producer is establishing the tenor of the material as well as the material itself, which was written in someone's private brain or even in a table. And that was whispered in their mind. And now you're bringing it out. So you know, when I was little, I just wanted to be an actress because I wanted to copy everybody I saw. If I was on a bus, I would just watch, stare the way children do. Why is that person rubbing his face? Why are they looking in their purse? And I felt at the end of the night that I could just go to bed acting out who they were, like I had absorbed that person completely. Young people know that. And I think a creative artist, writer or actor, you just want to be, you can know what it is to be somebody else and you just want to copy it. That's acting to me. Well, my first audition in New York City, it was for a Western musical, and I sang some kind of song like this. And he went, stop. I stopped, and he went, Mimi, I feel like you're putting on the dog for me. And I'm like, I'd never heard that. Putting on the Ritz? Yes. Putting on the dog? No. And he went, you went to Smith College here on your resume, and you're from Rochester, New York. I don't know what I'm looking at here. And I went, well, it's a Western musical, right? And he went, yeah, sing the song the way you would sing it. So then I sang this song like this, Catholic Gregorian chant style. And of course, I didn't get the part. And I was like, what is this? I'm not going to be asked to act? And they were like, we want to know who you really are. Well, most actors don't know who they really are. And it takes a long time to find out. And then once you do, Sean Penn said the best thing. He said it at a political event. So the irony was great. At least when we're acting, we know we're lying. And I'm very freed by that now. I want to be somebody else. So at least when I'm acting, if I'm taking myself, my true self, into it, to Marjorie, for instance, I know I'm lying that I'm doing it as Marjorie and trying to put on all this stuff that I sense would be Marjorie from women I've known like that.
Did you, feel the need to be an actor, or did you consider other careers?
No.
Was it getting your equity card,
My husband's laughing.
But it's a tough hurdle. Was it tough?
My father, who was a lawyer and who said no to a career as a writer and editor at the New Yorker magazine in order to go to Harvard Law School because he thought that's what a good Irish son should do if he wasn't going to be a priest. And he had a roommate at Harvard named Bill Rorick who became a professional actor, who toured a lot. In those days, it was theater and tours, and 50s this was. And I was a child. And Bill came to visit us, and Daddy said, Bill, sit her down on your knee and tell her not to be an actress. You tell her what it's like. And he dutifully did. And he said, Mimi, if you can find any other kind of life, do it. Because acting is not much of a life at all. And I remember thinking, BS. But I was a little girl and I didn't know how to say a thing like that because you're an actor. How bad can it be? And sure enough, at one point I was in Grease the musical. We were in Chicago. I was taking the bus down State Street to get to the matinee. And beside me sat Bill Rorick going to his matinee of Night of the Iguana. And I said, well, Bill, How bad is it? Come on, we're both having fun. I became an actress anyway.
But you've had a wonderful career, but there's a lot of uncertainty in this business.
Yes.
Did you ever think, oh, maybe I should have done something else, or did you always?
Shortly before getting the role of Marjorie, I was considering. Yeah, of course, yes, there have been very dry periods. I tell all young actors, save your money. Work on what you love, save your money, and wait until the fashion comes around again or something sparks your interest, or you can go and do theater that is going to cost you to do rather than earn. But I guess I never lost so much heart that I thought I was not an actress. I've always thought, I am definitely an actress. I'm going to have to stay in this.
What over the years do you think has changed in terms of acting approaches and styles, in terms of entertainment itself, roles that are available?
Well, I go back to Robert De Niro when he first appeared in Mean Streets and Marty Scorsese and what I call the New York School of Acting. That's what I was trained in. It was absolutely honest, one-on-one, improvisational, and not for funny. Later has come all this improvisational, say yes to everything, build a funny thing. I've done that too, Saturday Night Live kind of stuff. So I think what changes is society. What they want out of sitting down and watching somebody else do something rather than yourself participating in your own life. We all have to relax and veg out sometimes. What is it we want to do that with? Sometimes it's top down imposed, but I think it goes like this. And I think now we're looking for serious stuff and historic stuff and big laughs, honest laughs. Don't just make fun of somebody and make me think it's funny. That's over. But,
I was at a recent taping of Mom, and it kind of surprised me until I realized there was one brief male character in it, but it was all women. Do you take notice of that? Is that significant?
well, as I said, Anna and Allison have let us know how that's evolved to be unusual, and they're so grateful for it. And it is unusual. It's particularly unusual in a Chuck Lorre project, which is what I mean. He's changing. He took this on as, now I'm going to do this. And I'm grateful to be around for it because I do think the man is a genius and knows what television's about and has struggled in a lot of ways. And I think this project has more of his struggle in it richly than anything he's ever done.
Do you think, it seems like comic roles for women are richer these days, both on television and in
That's
film.
interesting.
What do you think so, and how do you think
Yeah.
that's changed? And
Because women insisted, at least in our culture, I keep thinking about, women worldwide in ways that we thought, it wasn't that over in the 9th century? No, women are being married at 9, women don't go to school. Women are kept in pens. I mean, it's unbelievable what the terror of whatever it is that keeps us just, you have to reproduce for the people, and that's your only value. To women's credit in America, starting in, the early Dolly Madison, isn't it? Don't forget the women, the 19th century, the suffragists. One of them, my favorite, Matilda, said, the slave has to be the first one to insist that the chains go. You have to stand up for yourself. That happened. That has happened here. It is happening here. But the reverberations are kind of just coming into what I might call the burlesque of advertising television. They're just going, well, maybe we can really do something about people who really do something other than be sex objects or tempt people or make sex funny or I think Mom is unusual for that.
well, I think it lets women be flawed, and there seems to be a lot of comedy.
They're working on their
flaws.
inner lives. Inner life, what a concept. We have not really dealt with our inner lives in America. We don't do that. Your inner life, maybe you pray, go to church, that's nice, you're a good person. Inner life, real struggles, what do you think about when you wake up at night at, 3 in the morning? I don't want to know. Yes, yes, yes. That's our shared life as human beings in community. And it bursts out in all kinds of ways when we're awake and alive. Funny, tragic. But that's interesting. And he gave these women an inner life by virtue of Addiction in 12 Steps, which has been talking about it a long time. So there it was.
Now, you've worked behind the camera, too.
Yeah.
As story editor, why did you why did you work behind the camera, and what did it help your acting at all?
Yes, yes. Friends gave me that not that role. They made me story editor on Knots Landing in the 9th year because they were the producers. They had the job to give, and they knew I needed it. They were fellow parents at a school where my children were and theirs were. And I just had to write lines, sentences with an active verb of what could happen to each character all year. And that was my job. And I remember the scripts would come in, and they were written so carefully and poetically by Lynn Latham and Bernard Leckwick that they would finish with a line, and then the next line of the next scene would pick up in a clever way. And an actor I shall not name did a scene, and he kind of ended up with, "Hey, good pizza, huh?" You know, it was an improvisational. He thought, I'm being so in the moment. And I remember they watched the dailies and went, "Good pizza, huh? Okay, you know, write him. He's not going to be the long-lost son of our main character. Just, he's a businessman passing through." Change that next script. And they did, and he was gone. So I kind of learned to say the words as written for producers.
So you don't. It's not the smile part of we're going in a different direction. You saw
Yeah,
how the sausage
exactly.
was made.
We're going into yeah.
Oh, that's funny because
Yeah.
usually nobody ever says. You never get the harsh word directly.
Saw the real reason.
And you've been producer too, at least documentary.
Not really a hardworking producer. I've been involved in some friends who have asked me to be a consultant in some ways on stories that they're telling. And I'm increasingly seem to be doing that by virtue of having been involved in some historical things, my activism.
What you were in Greece? There's going to be a Greece live performance on Fox. What do you think of the longevity of that?
I'll tell you, it figured in my actor's nightmares a lot because I kept having to go back to Greece and to be in it. You know, I would dream this at night and try to remember what was my first line, what was my first line. And I finally came up with it, so I solved my problem in the dream. I loved Grease. I was in the original, so Jan was a pink lady. She was the funny pink lady. At 12 o'clock already, I can't believe it, something like that coming through the cafeteria line. That's what I think of it. I love that people love Grease. I get it. I just saw the Motown musical. Oh my God, go if you can. Because that's my high school rock and roll out there on this stage. And I understood people coming to Greece to see theirs. Loved it.
I've always admired actors partly for the chance they're taking, the passion, the uncertainty of the business. But what a regular role on a successful show, that's a steady job. What is the meaning of that versus other kinds of roles?
It gives you a life. To quote Bill Rourke, my father's college roommate, it does allow you a life. I'm married, I've raised 2 children, I'm now a grandmother. You know, grandmother can help pay for nursery school, which costs what my college did, more than what I paid to go to a 7 sisters school. It's ridiculous. I think the whole money education pyramid is about to change because education is so much more than what the official stamp of you have to pay $40,000 a year can give you. But that's what it gives you. I'm incredibly blessed. And again, if you save money, you can spend some time doing other things, which I have also done, writing and participating in civic life, advising on a new voting system for LA County, because I happen to learn a lot about the difficulties of electronic voting. It's not for us. We do not do internet voting. We don't do all electronic. You need to have a paper ballot when so much is at stake. But how do you do that? How do you keep it? Why? I've had to do a lot of splaining to leadership and to politicians who think it can all be done so easily and they can just lay back. Nope, democracy is much too valuable. So being on a TV show lets me, I give back is a little cliche, but maybe that's the right term.
Now you're in The Brink, an upcoming HBO
Yeah.
series.
HBO, The Brink, Tim Robbins plays the Secretary of State. And I'm in the Situation Room as the CIA director, which I posted that on my Facebook, and one of the most famous radicals worldwide, actually, Peace. She's not a, radical. She's a great peacenik who worked at the United Nations, Medea Benjamin. And she said to me, "Oh, Mimi is CIA director, if only." But I enjoyed playing that. I'm not in it a lot, but it's a nice, meaty part, sitting with the president and all the generals.
Do you have a favorite role that you've done?
Marjorie is getting close to it. I did love playing Ruth Sloan on Homefront. Thank you. Yeah, 2 years. And Mad Men showed us the 50s with the men. Homefront went to the post-war period, 1945, and showed us small town Ohio. And everything, race and class is what it was really about. And Kyle Chandler was in it, his first gig, and I played the woman you love to hate. I was the wife of the factory owner, and I did things like stayed awake. They juxtaposed a union strike down at my husband's plant with people getting bashed in the head, and me sleeping going, oh, I just can't. I'm lying awake thinking, worrying. Where am I going to get a bathing suit at this time of year to go on vacation? And I thought that sort of writing did a beautiful job of showing our silos.
To go back to Mom, with Marjorie as a recurring character and having cancer, did you ever wonder, is this a short-term gig?
Yes. Oh, I think Chuck or somebody said to me, "We're not going to kill you."
Oh, okay.
Very early on, they
Because
told me
Kevin
that.
Pollak, a great actor, is on the show. It seems like shows are
I know.
more willing to get off characters.
I'll tell you something. I mean, I might be sitting a little too pretty in my own security, but I will say one of the aspects of women shows of what's happening on Mom is that a boyfriend is in a little less secure a position, perhaps, than they used to be, because the women are going to stay.
Yes.
Allison and Anna are going to stay on the show. So maybe that, to explore different kinds of relationships will be part of what goes on, to partner them off into a marriage plot too soon.
That's true.
But none of us knew that was going to happen. Kevin is fabulous, and it was a great character. And I think they want to bring him back as a ghost sometimes.
Well, that would work. And Marjorie has a boyfriend or a gentleman friend?
Mr. Perugian, Victor. We haven't seen, but it's wonderful. She has a sex life. Marjorie has a sex life, first with man-on-man porn, because she was evidently a widow. I spoke early on of having been married for 30-some years and losing my husband. And, he died, as Allison said. Yeah, he died. So I was presumably happy, though I have a son I'm estranged from. And I think they're going to do something with that eventually. He did not want to see me when I had cancer at first, and then he texted me and said, I do want to see you. Now I've survived. I don't know where he is. But I have gone back into the dating game. I'm risking a relationship.
She seems so stable now. She's like kind of the balancing force, but she's also got this radical political past. It's a great contrast.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the good old mentors around here, L.A., I think Chuck knows them. I've known quite a few. They do have those pasts, the Tom Waits effect.
Well, that's great. You've had so many varied roles. Is there any role you haven't done or anything kind of thing you want to do?
My managers are sitting right there. I told them, that this is about 4 years ago, look for something with crazy white hair. And it might be sci-fi or magical or something. I mean, I was seeing a sort of a wisdom thing. I'm old. Let's just go for it, But I have a feeling Marjorie's come along and she's hidden inside of a meek, cat-loving woman in a suburban house is that very woman I pictured I might be able to play.
You're not allergic to cats, I hope.
I am.
You are?
I have allergy pills in my dressing room. And they call me the night before and go, you'll be working with the cats tomorrow. Make sure you have your allergy. But I love cats, and I'm a dog person. I've always had dogs. But I did have my own cat for a while, and I loved him, Ajita. Larry, wasn't Ajita a man? I don't think we ever did. Ajita. I think he was a guy, but he acted like he knew what he was doing. And he lived with us in New York City. And when I got pregnant, I became hysterically allergic to cats. My hormones changed. And I'm still have that allergy. Because my sister has 3 cats, and I can't stay in her house.
You lived in New York.
Yeah.
Are the New York and LA acting worlds a lot different?
Well, they're not now. Everybody I knew in New York is out here, and I see them now at Grandparent Park, I mean, it's been a long time that I've been in. So the people I came up with and are still around, I see them. I just hosted my 30-year-old nephew, Hugh Kennedy, who played Hamlet in Minnesota. He worked at the Guthrie. He's classically trained. And he had been in New York for a while. And he was telling me what New York was like. And it's changed very little, actually. But I don't think it has I don't know if all the great acting schools are there that people, it's okay.
Do you, have you received any acting advice, or do you have any acting advice you could give to people who, are pursuing the career?
Take an acting class that you love, get a technique you can really depend on. Try to be in any play you can. Get friends who want to create with you. Maybe you'll create something great that gets some attention. Save your money when you make it.
Well, we also have a few questions that were submitted by the audience. I'm going to run through them. This is from Victor, is it Kursane? Oh. And it's asking you, what would you have done if you weren't an actress?
A social worker. It's what I wanted to be otherwise. That was the me that didn't flower. Although I'm writing a book about someone who became a social worker, not an actress, so we'll see where that takes me.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So
I'm becoming a person in order to write a fictional work.
This is from Michael Hurley. I loved your performance in The Lady with All the Answers.
Oh, thank you.
Does the performance vary much from audience to audience in a one-person show?
Yes, it totally does. The Lady with All the Answers, Ann Landers. Who remembers Ann Landers, the advice columnist? She had a thing they call it a lateral S. It's actually a speech impediment. And she and her sister both had it. They were twins, and they had to learn how to articulate. So that was kind of fun to become her. And yes, every night it was different, and the way it was written by David Rambo, who writes a lot of television, CSI, everything. I had to pick people out and say, oh, I know, what you're thinking. So it was very different. I did it in LA, Pasadena, and then I did it in Cleveland at the Cleveland Playhouse. And very different audiences. Wow. It's like there are regional differences in America, I'll tell you. Yeah.
And we may have gone over a little of this, apologies to Trip Langley, but it's a good question if you have any more to tell us. It's that though Mom is a sitcom, there are a lot of dramatic moments, and unlike most half-hour shows, and how is the tone for the different scenes, and whether to make it light or heavy, approached by the cast and the creative team?
That's a great question, because it's the one we're struggling with. Frankly, we play with each other and we know what's funny. So we're not playing it for laughs. We're trying to find what's good in the relationship in saying these lines. Then there's a run through on Tuesday and the writers have to laugh at their lines or we're not saying them right. But by Thursday, when Chuck and the writers see the run through on monitors and see how it's going to be seen by the television viewer, that's when we start getting, don't play that one for laughs. Just go through that. Just ask her the question, give her the answer. This is not about that. This is not about that. This is about we need to know what's happening to Roscoe, or we need to know. And so in a way, the way we approach it is we understand we're on a sitcom. We have a lot of lines to learn. We have a lot of respect to give each other about, are you going to go and do your breakfast on that line, or are you turning around and looking at me, or should I take the coffee there? All that has to be worked out with actors, and some are very flighty about that. If I take, they go, you're going to take my water there? I was going to use the water, and the next, okay, I'll find something else to do. So that goes on. And so I would say it's a collaborative process, and you try to stay open, never take it personally if somebody doesn't want something you're doing. It's a collaborative process, and you just come up with an idea and you ditch it. Come up and you ditch it. It's a delicious feeling of creativity when it's flowing. And you try to keep your ego out of it, because that becomes when you feel you're hurting somebody's feelings, or they don't know yours are hurt, or they're being abusive to you, it hurts everybody. So you really try to keep that behavior out.
And the last question is, it's a second question from Michael Hurley, who has very fine penmanship to boot.
A writer.
Taken to the Stage is a wonderful read. Do you have any plans for an additional volume? And it says Shelley Winters did too, and it says also have your children read it.
Yeah, my children did read it. Larry, my husband, maintains my daughter, who was younger, stopped reading it about halfway through when it got to my coming of age. And I think my son read the whole thing. And I do hope to get the rights back from the very small publisher. Thank you for saying it's good. I love to write, and I intend to keep doing it. And I want that in paperback. And yes, I probably will write again, because it's very different being an older actor. And I do have some things to say about that. Thank you, Michael.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience?
I want to thank everybody for coming out. When they told me these things happen, I went, why would anybody be interested in, little old me and coming out and hearing? So I'm continually grateful and amazed that that I personally and my career has an impact that creates anybody being interested in it. And I want to thank you for that, because that's a connection. It means you're open to something and I'm open to it, and it enhances what we're taking in as entertainment. I know it does. So I just want to thank you for adding that to my world, and I hope I add something to yours, so we'll go out and do good things with our ideas. Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you for attending, and thank you, Mimi. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Bill.